I still remember the night my father called me a joke. It wasn't just the words that broke me. It was the way he laughed, like my dream was some kind of disease he wanted me to be cured of. My name's Ethan Cole, and this is the story of how my father's mockery turned into my fire. How the man who once told me I'd never make it, now tells people he's proud to be my dad. But it wasn't always like that. No, it began in a small town where dreams weren't allowed to grow. I grew up in a house where silence was safer than honesty. My father, Richard Cole, was a construction worker. Tough, disciplined, always tired. My mom, Laura, tried to soften his edges, but life had made him hard. When I was 12, I discovered my first love, music. I'd sneak my mom's old guitar from the attic and play it under the blanket with a flashlight. The strings were rusted, and the sound was far from perfect, but for me, it felt like freedom. At school, I'd sing at small events. The first time I sang Let Her Go by Passenger at the talent show, I saw something magical. People felt it. They clapped, they smiled. And for a moment, I believed maybe this was what I was meant to do. But when I came home, my father shattered that belief. He was sitting in his chair, newspaper open, beer half empty. He didn't even look up when he said, "Heard you were singing again today." I smiled. "Yeah, Dad. People actually liked it. The principal said I have real talent." He slammed the paper down. "Talent? Ethan, you think singing pays bills? You think it builds houses? No one in this family ever wasted time on fairy tales." I froze. He looked straight into my eyes. "You'll work like a man, not sing like a fool." That night, I cried quietly into my pillow. Not because he yelled, but because deep down, I wished he'd just said he believed in me. The years went by. Every time I hummed a tune, he'd shut me down. When I got good grades, he didn't notice. When I sang, he mocked me. At 16, I started posting small covers on YouTube, secretly. Just me, my cracked phone camera, and that same old guitar. One of those videos, my cover of Fix You by Coldplay, hit 10,000 views. I was shocked. 10,000 people listened. 10,000 people heard me. But when my father found out, he wasn't proud. He barged into my room, phone in hand, veins popping in his neck. "You put your face online for strangers? You think this is a game?" I stammered, "Dad, it's not a game. People liked it, they said." "They said what? That you'll be famous? You'll be broke. You'll end up singing on street corners for coins." He grabbed the guitar and smashed it on the floor. The sound of splintering would still echoes in my head. My mom tried to stop him, but he turned to her and said, "The boy needs reality, not lullabies." That night, something in me broke. But something else was born too, a quiet, burning promise. I whispered to myself, "One day, you'll regret ever laughing at me." After high school, my father wanted me to work with him in construction. I lasted 2 weeks. The noise of hammers, the dust, the anger, it suffocated me. One afternoon, after another shouting match, I packed a small bag and left. Mom ran after me. Tears filled her eyes. "Ethan, please, your father doesn't mean everything he says. He's just scared." I hugged her tight. "Mom, I can't live scared anymore." I had no money. No plan. Just a dream and a bus ticket to Los Angeles. The city hit me hard. I slept in a shared room with 4 other dreamers. We were broke, chasing the same impossible thing. Days were filled with coffee shops, open mics, rejection emails, and half-eaten sandwiches. But every night, I sang. I sang like it was my only way to breathe. At one gig, a man named Marcus Gray approached me. He was a music producer, at least, that's what his card said. He said, "Kid, you've got raw emotion. You're rough, but real." I thought my life was about to change. But instead, he took advantage of my desperation. He made me sign a deal I didn't understand, one that gave him the rights to my music. When I realized it, it was too late. He released my first single under his name. All my work, my lyrics, my voice, credited to someone else. I called him, begged him to fix it. He laughed. "Welcome to the music business, kid. Next time, read before you sign." I hung up, threw my phone, and screamed until I had no voice left. That night, I slept on a park bench. Rain poured down, soaking everything I owned. But even then, I started humming. Because no contract could own my heart. Months passed. I got a job washing dishes at a diner. At night, I sang in bars, lounges, and tiny clubs. Sometimes people clapped, sometimes they just talked over me. But I kept showing up. One night, an old woman who worked as a janitor in the club came up to me after my set. She said, "You sing like you've lived 1,000 lives, boy. Don't stop. Someone's listening, even if you can't see them yet." I smiled through tired eyes. Her words became my strength. 2 years later, I recorded an original song, Silent Promises. I wrote it about that moment my father smashed my guitar. About pain, humiliation, and resilience. I uploaded it with no expectations. 3 weeks later, it hit 1 million streams. I couldn't believe it. People were sending messages like, "Your song got me through my breakup," and "This made me believe in myself again." I remember sitting in that same diner, apron on, watching the number climb. Tears fell into the sink. For once, they weren't from pain, they were from pride. I called my mom. She answered, voice trembling. "Ethan? Oh honey, where are you?" "Mom, check YouTube. Look for Silent Promises." She went quiet. Then I heard her gasp. "Oh my God. Ethan, that's you." "Yeah," I whispered. "It's me, Mom. I made it." She cried, telling me how proud she was. But then her tone shifted. "Your father doesn't know. He still thinks you're wasting your time." I smiled faintly. Let him think that. For now. But fate had its own timing. One afternoon, a major label executive reached out. They'd seen my song on Spotify's viral chart. They wanted to meet. That meeting changed everything. They signed me, helped me record my first album, The Boy Who Sang Anyway. And one of those tracks, Forgive the Fire, hit the Billboard Hot 100. For a moment, I just stared at the screen, my name glowing next to artists I grew up admiring. It didn't feel real. But that wasn't the best part. No. The best part was what came after. Because that's when my father found out. When the man who mocked my dream heard me on the radio. And that moment, my revenge through success, is something I'll never forget. The day I saw my name on the Billboard chart. I didn't scream. I didn't throw a party. I just stared at it in silence. Because sometimes silence says everything success can't. Number 47. Ethan Cole, Forgive the Fire. The boy who once sang in the shadows was now echoing across radios in every city. But deep inside, I knew this moment wasn't just about music. It was about every night I cried wishing my father had believed in me. The calls started flooding in, producers, journalists, people I hadn't heard from in years. Everyone wanted an interview, a collaboration, a feature. But the one call I never expected came from my mother. I answered instantly. "Mom, you okay?" Her voice was trembling. "Ethan, your father heard your song on the radio today." I froze. What did he say? There was a long pause. He didn't say much. He just sat down and cried. I didn't know whether to feel vindicated or broken. The man who called me a fool was now listening to my voice on every station. A week later, I got a letter. A handwritten one. I hadn't seen my father's handwriting in years. It was shaky, uneven, as if written by guilt itself. It read, "Ethan, I don't expect you to forgive me. I said things I can never take back. I thought I was protecting you from failure, not realizing I was the one destroying you. When I heard your song, I realized how wrong I was. You made it, son. You really did. Dad. I sat there for a long time, reading it over and over. For the first time, his words didn't hurt, they healed. But forgiveness doesn't come easy when the scars are still fresh. My career started climbing fast. I went on tours, performed live on shows I once watched as a kid. People held up signs with my name. They sang my lyrics back to me. And every time, I'd look out at the crowd and think, Dad, I wish you could see this. But part of me knew, he probably was. From a distance. Too proud, or too ashamed, to reach out. Until one night, that changed. It was the night of my first big concert in my hometown. Tickets sold out in 2 hours. The local paper called it a homecoming for the boy who refused to give up. Backstage, I was nervous. Not about the singing, but about who might be sitting in that crowd. As I walked toward the stage, the sound of thousands of voices chanting my name hit me like a wave. Ethan, Ethan, Ethan. I stepped into the light. The crowd roared. And for a moment, I felt like the boy with the broken guitar had finally found his voice. I sang my heart out that night. But when it came time for my last song, Silent Promises, I felt something change. The spotlight dimmed, and I looked out into the audience. That's when I saw him. My father. Sitting in the third row. Older, smaller, quieter than I remembered. He wasn't clapping. He wasn't moving. He was just watching me. Our eyes met for a second that felt like forever. I could see the regret in his face, the way his jaw clenched, his eyes glistened. I took a deep breath and spoke into the mic. This song was written the night my father broke my guitar. It's not a song of hate. It's a song of forgiveness. The crowd fell silent. Every light in the arena dimmed to a soft glow. Then I sang. You burned my voice, but I found my fire. You told me no, but I reached higher. By the end of the song, tears blurred my vision. When I looked up again, my father was standing, clapping, slowly at first, then faster, until the whole crowd joined him. It wasn't just applause, it was redemption. After the concert, I walked backstage, heart still pounding. And there he was, standing in the hallway, holding his old work cap in his hands. He looked nervous, almost childlike. You were incredible, he said softly. I didn't say anything. I just looked at him. The man who once told me I'd never make it now stood trembling before me. He took a deep breath. I don't deserve to call myself your father after what I did. Tears welled in his eyes. I broke your dream because I was too scared to chase mine. I thought I was protecting you from pain. But I became the one causing it. I swallowed hard. You broke my guitar, Dad. He nodded, eyes full of guilt. I know. And it broke me too. There was silence. Then, without thinking, I stepped forward and hugged him. He stiffened at first, then slowly wrapped his arms around me. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. We just cried. A month later, I invited him to my studio. He sat quietly as I played my new tracks, occasionally nodding, sometimes smiling. When I finished one of my songs, he said, "That one's about me, isn't it?" I chuckled. Most of them are, in some way. He smiled faintly. Guess I finally inspired you, huh? We both laughed. And for the first time, it wasn't bitter, it was healing. Time passed. My father became one of my biggest supporters. He'd show my songs to his coworkers, brag about my shows, even wear my tour merch. One afternoon, he showed up at my rehearsal unannounced. He had something in his hands, a small box. Inside was a guitar. New. Shiny. Beautiful. He said quietly, "I owed you this. For the one I broke." I didn't say anything. I just strummed the strings and smiled. It sounded perfect. That moment was worth more than any award I'd ever get. Months later, I was invited to the Billboard Music Awards. When they announced my name for Best New Artist, I froze. My heart stopped. Then I heard it, thousands of people cheering as I walked up the stage. I took the mic, trembling. To everyone who ever believed in me, thank you. To those who didn't, thank you even more. You taught me that the greatest revenge isn't anger, it's success. The crowd erupted. Cameras flashed. And in the audience, I saw him, my father, clapping, tears streaming down his face. After the ceremony, he hugged me tight. He whispered, "You showed them, Ethan. You showed me." I smiled. "Yeah, Dad. I told you I'd make it." He laughed through his tears. "Guess I'll have to listen next time." Now, years later, every time I perform, I still think about that little boy with the broken guitar. The boy who cried in his room while his father mocked his dream. If I could go back, I'd tell him, "Don't stop. Not for anyone. Because one day, the world will sing your song." And they did. Microphone final voiceover lines. They say revenge is best served cold. But I learned something different. The sweetest revenge is when your success plays louder than their laughter. Because the same people who mocked your dream will one day call you their inspiration. And when that day comes, smile. You've already won.